Masechta Zevachim, Daf Mem Beis Amud Aleph. We're starting from Mem Aleph Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom, and Meisvei. So Mem Aleph Amud Beis. So we learned before that Shimon ben Lakish learns a Pirish in Rav Meir that if he made one matana in the Mizbeach HaPnimi, all the matanas are me'akif. So if he made one matana, let's say out of the 4 kronis, one matana he made Yishbitz the blood, and at this Gemach mit der Machshavas Pigel, having in mind he's going to eat the carbon after the right time, after that time, which is Pigel, parts of the carbon. Then the second matana, he didn't have anything in mind.
What is a matana?
Matana means that he gives blood onto the mizbeach. It's sprayed.
And that's part of matana?
That's matana. It means to give. The literal translation of matana is to give.
Yes.
Gives blood on the mizbeach. Sprays the blood. There were on the 4 corners of the mizbeach hapnimi. They put blood on each corner of the mizbeach.
Okay.
Now he says over here, according to Reb Shimon, if that the first matana he had machshava zara, let's say machshava chutz lizmanei, and then the next matanis he didn't have anything in mind. So we say it's al das rishona. Al das, since the first das was pigel, so they're all pigel. That's Reb Shimon ben Lakish's piddush. Meisrei fragt the Gemara Akasha. Lamed varim amorim. They asked on Reb Shimon ben Lakish from the Braisa. It says when was machshavas chutz lizmanei considered as pigel? Bedomim hanitonin al mizbeach hachitzayin. Only by the mizbeach hachitzayin if he had in mind chutz lizmanei here on Membeis. Bedomim hanitonin al mizbeach hachitzayin. On the first one. Because by mizbeach hachitzayin, only the first one is vital for the kapara. All the other ones are not. And if he had a machshava chutz lizmanei, then it's pigel. Because the first one is the main. The other ones don't mean anything. Because oh no, we're talking. That's a chacham. No, we're going to get to it. What about the blood that was placed on the mizbeach hapimi? That each one is me'akiv. There were 43 matanis when it came to the chatas hapnimi. How?
7 times 6.
No. So he goes in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in front of the kapetis, in front of the arin, they would spray 7 times, okay? Or they would have 7 for the par, 7 for the sar here, and achas l'mayla. Achas l'mayla, when one was done l'mayla, so it was achas l'mayla, v'shev l'mata. So it was 8 and 8 inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
16.
That's 16. Once they came out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, they were in the Heichel. So towards the Pareiches, they did again. For the Pa, Achas L'mayla Shev L'mata, Achas L'mayla Shev L'mata, is another 1632. Then you have the 4 kronis, plus the 4 kronis that you put on. So where are we up to? 32 is 36. No, 16 and 16 is 32. Then 4, and then they had 7 on the top of the Mizbeach itself. On the Mizbeach itself, so 7 plus 36 is 43. That's how they had 43. So everyone was negeya. Every spritz is ma'akif. And he goes like this. He says, either you had the additional 11, that means the 7 plus 4. If it was a Pakoin HaMashiach is like the Nasi, who gives a erroneous psak and everybody follows the psak.
So 43 plus 7?
No. That's that last 11 that we counted to make it to 43 is either from the Pakoin HaMashiach or it's Vachadas HaPashal, or the Sanhedrin made an erroneous psak.
They all follow the same amount.
The same amount. It's either one that it was 7 and 4. It was 7 and 4. So the Gemara, so pigel bein barishena bein bashni or bein bashlishis, if he had machshava pigel, either by the first sprays, remember in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, by those sprays, or by the second group of sprays towards the pareiches, or benegay from the mizbeach hapnimi that there was 7 on it with the 4 kranis. But either one, Reb Meir pigel chayab na'al karis. Reb Meir says it's pigel by even one of the groups. It's pigel. Chacham say no, it doesn't become pigel till all 43 was bin b'achshavas chutz lizmanei. Not one group 7, 8, and 8, 16 that.
In the last group, no.
Wait, no. He says the whole thing. Everything is matter. Each one that chacham. But here comes the kasha. Pigul bein b'rishayna bein b'shniya bein b'shlishis. It says it doesn't matter which group. So let's say it was the last group where you had pigul. Why should it become pigul? You're saying it has to be aldas rishayna. The first two were not pigul. He didn't have. There was no das rishayna. If the first one was pigul and the other two was quiet, so we go aldas rishayna. That's all pigul. But if you're going to say it was by the third group, so what is that? How do you do aldas rishayna? There's no das rishayna. The pigul happened by the third group. So it must be that as Meir says it's pigul. How could it become pigul? If according to Shlakish, it only becomes pigul.
Was good on the first group.
Right. So, or it was quiet. It didn't say there was no machshava anything. So there was no machshava pigul by the first two groups.
Only by the end.
Only by the end. If it happened at the beginning, it makes more sense. Meir says it's possible because the last two is aldas yishayna. But if it happened by the third one, who's aldas yishayna? So Azariah from this that he said it doesn't matter which group he had machshavas pigul, it's possible. Obviously, Meir Shita is not with Reb Shimon that it goes al das yishena. Rather, he says you could be mefagel even on something that's half being mata. Something that's half. Like here, each spray makes it mutter. Another spray is an additional spray to make it mutter, but it's not fully mutter because one group you had pigul. So he says pigul doesn't matter. Pigul could be even by half of heter is still pigul. Over here it's talking about the goin. Shapigul b'shchita the chad materu. He says here it's a different case. What was the case? By the first group he sprayed. Let's say in the Kodesh HaKadoshim he sprayed 8 of the par, 8 of the soyer, and on his way out he was supposed to use the blood now by the heichel inside towards the pareiches again 8 and 8. From the part in the soyer, it spilled out. What does he have to do? He takes another behema and he shachs it. At the shchita, he had machshavas pigul. That's where the whole thing becomes possible because it's a new behema. It's not. It's for that. So for that behema, it was able to postulate it because
the first one is too good.
So the first one is no good because you need a whole thing as one. But he's saying it's each one, since it's a new behema. That section could become puzzle because it's a chefza lifnei atzmai. And that behemoth, the chefza lifnei atzmai, right at the shchita, you had machshavas pigul, it puzzled the middle one. So the whole thing is puzzle. You need all 3 sections. But how could it become puzzle if it's not das yishayna? You don't need das yishayna. The moment that you had to use a new behemoth became a new metzius of pigul mitzad the new behemoth. And if he had machshavas pigul by the blood of the second behema, so it becomes pigul, and you don't have to be seimech al das yishayna anymore. You don't, even though if the first one wasn't, second one is pigul.
But that's Meir's Shita, no?
Meir's Shita is al das yishayna. So we asked, there's no das yishayna by the third group.
He says
it doesn't matter which either group. So the shaila was if it was by the third group. And Shlakish says the only way it becomes puzzle is because it was Aldas Yishayna, the other two groups on the first group, that it was Mamish Machshavas Pigul. But if the Machshavas Pigul didn't happen till the third group, what Das Yishayna is there? So he's learning, you don't need Das Yishayna. On Shlakish, how he learns Ameya. There's another sheet, and the reason Ameya, there's another sheet of Ameya that says, no, Mefaglina, Bechatzi, that even by a half, you can make the pigul could become pigul. Right. So how could it be pigul if you're going according to the Shlakish? Rameya says this for sure, but there's 2 reasons how you can learn Rameya why does it become pigul. Either because you're Seimech al das yishayna, that means only if the first group was Mamish Machshava pigul. Then the second and third could be al das yishayna. But you're saying it doesn't matter which group he had Machshavas pigul.
That's what it says right now.
Right. So it's obviously that's not. We don't follow that reason in the Rav Meir. We follow the other Tana who says, the other Ameda that says that Meir's reason why it becomes possible because he says mefaglina b'chatzi mata any group affects the whole group. So he says you have no raya against Reish Lakish, because over here we're talking about it's a different case. Since there was a behema, a new thing, a new behema, that's a new mitzvah, so you don't have to be saying Chavdas Shayna. At that shchita, the behema, the moment he had a machshavas pigul, that behema became pigul. So therefore, that's why it's possible. It has nothing. You can't prove.
That's what the first case, the first animal.
And now all three are connected. So we're going to say it's possible.
What was the first and what was the second?
You need 43 matnas
We're
namim.
talking about matanas or we're talking about behemoths?
The behema is where you're getting more blood to have for matnas namim. Because
he had to chef another one?
no, he had to chef. Officially, he didn't have to. He dropped the blood, so he had to get a new behema middle. So it changed the whole story.
That new behemoth, he was
He was mafagel right at the
affected
shchita. Affected the shchita, and so there could be. You don't have to have aldas shena. It affects because you don't have 43 matanas damim with the good machshava. According to you, if you're talking about a new case, a new behema came in middle by the second group, and when you shachted it, you had pigul in mind. So what's the reason that the Rabbanan say that it shouldn't become pigul? At the shechita, he was mafagel it. He passled the damim there.
Right away.
Even the Rabbanan should hold its pasul in such a case.
What's the lotion? Aim by the chachama, aim by karas actually you can't do the
In all the matanis. But here it's different. Here you have to have a new behema. Everybody's in agreement with a new behema, and he has the mashravas pigul.
So who cares what he did in the beginning?
Right, it has nothing to do with the beginning. These that it's pigul because you're not going to be able to have 43 matanis. Rabbi said that man chacham hu the chacham Rabbi Loza. He brings down it's not Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Loza. It's a non that we learned in the Mishnah. When they get to being makiv, there's a is to be makiv karbanis chutz lamigdash. There's a din by the kohenim. First, I want you to remember by mincha. You have all the avodas that you have by a regular behema. You have the kmitza. The kmitza is the shchita because you're cutting into the flour. It's like shchita. Then you have the kmitza. You're dropping into a keli. That's klila kabbalah. And then you put in the levina, the frankincense, right, and the other potatoes. And then there's halacha. You bring it to the mizbeach, and then when you pour the whole mincha onto the mizbeach into the fire, that's the zrika. So you have all four. Shchita, you cut when you cut out to take out the kmitza, then you drop the kmitza into keli, that's kabbalah. You put in the levena and the potatoes. Then, so after the kabbalah, you bring it towards the mizbeach, that's halacha. Then you take the keli and you pour the whole thing onto the fire. That's zrika.
Like a mixture already.
Yeah, but now you have all four.
And levina and oil also.
Right, so all these have to be completely burnt. Side the kmitza, side the levina, side the ketredas, by minchas koyanim and by minchas koyam Mashiach or minchas nechasim. So what happened? What's if out of the whole kmitza he took a kezayis, he brought it outside? It's supposed to be burnt all on the mizbeach, or he took a kezayis. So here you have a machlekes that the Tanakama says, or the Chacham says he's chayiv, and Rabbi Lezer patters till he takes not just the kezayis, the whole kmitza he brought outside. If he just took out a kezayis, he's going to be pater. So I'm going to say over. Man Chachamun, the Chacham Rabbi Lezer. It's Rabbi Lezer. It's not the Mishnah. Koimetz, the kmitza, the halvaina, the spice, the frankincense, the and those the 11 keteres. 11 spices, uminchas kahanim, uminchas kayin HaMashiach, uminchas nechasim, shehikim ma'achas mehem, that he was marked from one of them, a kezayis machutz, a kezayis outside, and we know each one has to be fully burnt, consumed. It says over here, kol echad ma'aminim kan, tzarech leikarev kuloi ala mizbeach. Each one has to be completely burnt on the mizbeach, and he took a kezayis of it and he burnt it outside. Or he took it outside. Chayiv is chayiv. But Avleza peitat Yaakov is kulam, and Avleza patters it till he's makiv all of it. So what do we see from according to Avleza? That you need all of it to be chayiv b'chutz. In order to the adarach pigul is only after all of it. Yeah, machshavas pigul at the time of the shchitza carbon. That's only a chiluk of the tanas of dam. It doesn't make the carbon pigul. That's the chachamim. who argue on Rav Meir in the Braisa. So they said the carbon doesn't become pigul through the Machshavas pigul at the time of shechita of one of the behemoths. He brings a raya again. Rabbi Lezer, who says you have to be, according to Rabbi Lezer, the avodah. Rabbi Lezer said that he's parted till he's makiv the whole thing. That's like the chachamim.
It's a bird, though.
Till the whole, till he takes out the whole mincha outside. Only then he's going to be chayiv. So too by pigul, it has to be pigul throughout the whole thing, not just a chelik of the matana. So what do we see? And if it's only a chelik, it's not compared. It's not if he took out on a chelik of the avodah, it's not going to be puzzle. So machshavas pigul at the time of shechita of the carbon. So where he only took a chelik of the matanas dam, it doesn't make the carbon pigul. That's the shita of the chachamim who argue on Rav Meir from the previous brisa, and they said the carbon doesn't become pigul till the machshavas of pigul was according to Rav Meir. Rav Meir says it does become pigul right at the beginning at the shechita of the behema by one of the behemoths. And the Chacham, that's why the Rabbanan cannot hold. We asked the Rabbanan by the shechita when he shechted the behema. It should be a new mitzias, and it should be pigul, just like Meir says it. So he says no. The Chachamim say just like by the mincha, if you took out a kezayis, it's not enough. You have to take out the whole thing. So too here, even though b'shas shechita you had a mind pigul, but it's still only a part of the matanis. So since it's still only part of the 43 matanes, it's not going to be pigul.
Because the
beginning part was good. Was good. In fact, so the Yomara slugs up this beer. Rava said, that he's chayv even on one matana that he put out bachutz. The Tanan that we learned in the Mishnah. Even for one matana, if he took one matana of blood, and he brought it outside, it's already going to be pigul. It's going to be puzzle. Where do we see that? That if the dam of one of the chatoyis apnimis on Yom
Kippur, did he just say that Rabbi Lezer holds it has to be kulon?
Right,
So
but he says, look, but that's by. You're right, but now he's showing you a brayso that says faket, and Rabbi Lezer, we're saying chachamim hold like Rabbi Lezer. Yeah. Look what Rabbi Lezer says in this Mishnah in Yuma. He says, in a case where the dam was poured out of one of the chatois apnim on Yom Kippurim, before finishing the matanes, they shechted a new behema, right, to be mashlim, because before they did the second group of dam, the first behema, the first dam spilled on the floor, so they had to take a new behema. So they shechted this new behema in order to be mashlim the matanes. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shimon say you don't have to go back once you take a new behema. You don't start from number 1. Let's say you're up to 16, and so now you shach the behema. You start from after 16, 17. He says only from where the blood fell out. You count how many matanis there were, how many times you sprayed the blood, and you keep that number. And you shech a new animal because the blood is not here, so you need a new animal. And you count from it. So Rabbi Lezer sees, so no, he wants to bring out that every matana is considered as avodah. It's not considered one shtik avodah, all 43. If they're all considered 43 as one avodah, you would have to start from the beginning. Obviously, what do we see? Every matana is separate. That's why you can start from where it stopped. So if each matana is separate, what's talk at the time of the Chachamim that the carbon didn't become pigul if he had in mind by a chelik of the matana? If each matana is separate, it's avodah on its own, avodah b'fnei atzmai. So according to the Chachamim, it should become puzzle also. Pigul, it should become pigul. Yeah. If you want, I could say him came the body should tell Mashavas pigul b'shchita shalach rabbehemas last is a pigul. Im du bereits mit mir pigul b'shchita shel achs min behemas mal tam shacham sham shakam loy nasa pigul. It should become pigul if each one is aveda. I want to bring out the lashon that he uses. Each one is aveda. Harei shesev Rabbi Lezer shebachshivim kol hazah ka'avoda b'fnei atzma. So it's kavida b'fnei atzma. So if it's its own aveda, so that aveda he was mefagel, it should become possible. Elam Rabba says you're right. It's talking about kagayin shepigam with shayna that it's talking nothing spilled. There was no new behemoths here. That he had the first case, the first group of sprays, he had machshavas apigol. V'shosek b'shniya, and the second one he didn't have a machshavas pigol. V'chazav upigol b'shlishis, and by the third kvutza, the third group, he again had a machshavas pigol. So he wants to tell, and therefore the whole covenant is pigol, because the second one,
It was in the middle between the two.
yeah, but the second one is al das shoyna. Since the first one had machshavas pigol, that's why the second one is considered as pigol. In fact, so why'd you have to say the third one was also pigol? That he had a machshavas pigol?
Why? Because it was enough with the first.
It was enough with the first. That's enough.
That's Rameya's shita.
Yeah. So we're trying to explain Rameya's shita now again. So he says, why do you have to say that the third group had pigol? Says Mao the Tema. I would have thought this is a chiddush. If everything was going according to the first das of that he had a mind pigol, why did he have to? From the mere fact that he specifically had a machshavas pigol by the third one, is that he didn't want to have a machshavas pigol in the second one, because by each one that he wanted to pigol, he had a machshava. By the first one he had, by the third one he had, by the second one he didn't have. Obviously, he didn't want to have a machshavas pigol in the middle. Maybe that's the shot.
Normally you say it's not
That's the Shaina, but he says, but since the third one he did have machshavas pigol.
He skipped the middle.
He skipped, and then the third one he did have machshavas pigol. I would say, when he wants a machshavas pigol, he has a machshavas pigol, and when he doesn't, there's no machshavas pigol. I would have thought you could say that. Mm-hmm. So that's why Kamashwan. That's why he gave this case to teach us it's still al das shoyna, even though the third group he had again a machshavas pigol.
Each is separate issue.
It's all separate, right? Maskiv Lord, Ravashi is the kasha, meet the shasik tani. Where do you come up with such a case? You're saying the first case he had a machshavas pigol. The second group, you said he was quiet. Where in the words do we see this? He's asking Frank Mother. It says if you look in the Mishnah, it says how do you derive such words that there was a shtika in the middle? Ravashi says over here in the Bryce is talking about he had a machshava by the first group, ubashniya, ubashlishis, by the second one and by the third one, but there's a fourth group. This Tana holds that you remember the last one we said by the Mizbeach, there was the four corners and 7 on top of the Mizbeach. So there's a Tana that says these are two separate groups. The four corners is one group, and the 7 is a fourth group. So he says four. It's the same number, 43, but he says the 4 and 7 don't go together. The last 4 and 7. 4 is a third group on its own, and then the 7 is a fourth group. So he says...
Until then we learned there was only 3?
3, because we counted the 7 and 4 as one group. So he says, no, the 7 is a separate group. And he's saying only the first, second, and third group, he had machshavas pigol. The fourth one, he didn't have a machshavas pigol by the 7. So...
He didn't have any...
He didn't have any thought. So they will say, it's al das shoyna. In fact, the shaila... Why do you have to say the fourth group? He didn't have any thought. Why couldn't he have a pigol of thought there too? I dachte this said it this way. I would have said if he was relying on das Shayna, so why by the second group he had specifically a machshavas pigol? By the third one, specifically a machshavas pigol. By the fourth one, he didn't have. If you're relying on das Shayna already from the second one, he shouldn't have had a machshavas pigol. So that's what he's come to teach us. Nevertheless, even though the first 3 groups he had a machshavas pigol, but the fourth one he didn't, will rely on das Shayna. In fact, where are you coming up again with that? The fourth case was shosak. Steht bein katani, bein berishayna, bein bashniya, bein bashlishis. It's mashma that he was mafagel by each one of the kvutzis. Not like you, that you're saying that he was mafagel. He had a machshavas. And you're saying that he had a machshavas pigol by all 3. He says, where are you coming off that he had a machshavas pigol by all 3? It says bain, either by the shayna or by shayna or by shlishis. It doesn't nicht all 3, not all 3. So Gemara Kasha is talking about good Kasha. Amar. You didn't understand what he's saying? Amar, the Tana says in the Baraisa, now we're going to Mefaglim Mechatzimata. We're sticking to the Shita since we can't prove. So we say, what's the reason that Ameya says this is a pigul? Because he says you could even be Mefagl by part of it. Mefaglim Mechatzimata. And you can't prove Al Das Rishona. Because we keep on slugging up all your pshatim, how you want to fit it in, that it should be Al Das Rishona. It doesn't fit. Like we said with this murderer, what's the Schwarzer? If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Okay, we have to finish. It doesn't work. So we're sticking to the shita that the reason why the Abneya says it's pigul because mefaglim lechatzi mate. So the Tana said, now he's going to ask on that shita. Abneya says that it's pigul and yechayiv kares. It's talking about that he had a machshav as pigul by one of the kvutzah matana, either by Yishayna, B'Shni, or B'Shlishis. Mechti, Koris Lemchayev. A person is not Chayev Koris on a carbon that he was had a machshava a pigul actually will call matirov till he does all four avodas of the carbon.
And then he gets chorus.
And then it becomes pigul. It doesn't matter. You're right. You can make pigul half, but you can't make pigul half until you did all the avodas. The mamar for the Tana said katzos kosher kachatzos basel. Meaning mahatzos kosher, just like when you want to make a carbon kosher. Only when does it become a kapora? At sheyikrevu kol matirov, till he does all the avodas that are mat to the basel achila and the hemurim laktora, which means the shchita, the hilacha, the kabbalah, hilacha, the zika. Af hatzos basel. In order that it should become pigul. When is the chal the isa pigul at sheyikrevu kol matirov, till he does all four avodas. How could that be? But
even though he's mefagel only in one part.
That's the kasha. In fact, what about Kiva the kasha bay? The moment at the beginning he had a machshavas pigul, so psula the whole carbon became puzzle. So now the other avodas are with this. It's commanded lo yadidami. It's as if he's not spraying anything at all. Kihada madi, because when he's going back to the heichal and spraying the heichal, when he's spraying the matanis of shniyas, the shlishis, maya ba'amo the kadli. He's only spraying regular water because it's when you passel the dam by the first kvutza. So how could it ever become pigul? It's not shaykh that it should become pigul, because the moment he passes it at the beginning, there's no pigul. Pigul has to be after. Rabbi says mashkachas. I can find it. How? Ba'aba parim, ba'aba seidim. It's talking about 4 parim and 4 seidim, meaning that, like we learned before, that by after the first group, the blood fell on the floor, then he needed a new behema. So then he had machshavas pigul. So there, it's on each behema, it's separate. While he was doing each behema, that's when it happens.
Why did he have 4 cows?
Because the blood fell on the floor from the first to the second. Yes.
And the third.
Yes.
He needed to come on to a 4th.
Yeah. He says, he had to bring a new par and soyer. So that's why it's shaykh that it should be maybe by one carbon, but the new carbon is a new carbon, right? Starts for new. You can even say we're talking about the same par, the same soyer. And lefigule meratza, he says, in order that the pigul doesn't, it's not yet pigul. It's not puzzle. When he had machshavas pigul at the beginning, it didn't become puzzle yet, because the psul only happens after he finishes all the avedas. So he still has a chiv to finish all the avedas. Well, the minute he finishes all the avedas, pigul.
So maybe he's going to say to himself, "What do I have to finish if it's going to become pigul?"
Okay, this is what he said. That's the case. You got it. He says svetish pigul till when you finish. If it's not pigul, you have to continue the aveda. Once you finish the aveda, get my patching pun. See pigul yet. Okay, we learned how many sprays were there? Abayim Mishalish, 43. In fact, you might have Hatanya, Abayim Mishalish, we learned 47 sprays. So you might have Commander Omar. This Baraisa, the first Baraisa that says there's 43, holds like the man that says ma'arvim, that they were ma'ariv the dam ha'par ha'soyer likrones. He says, when did they take there's two behemoths that you're spraying 7 and 7, but when it comes to the 4 krones and then comes the 7 after, there's a machlekes. When did they put the dam together? Before they put the 4 krones or before they put the 7 sprays on the top of the
I mean, they
mizbeach?
had a mix.
They mixed the both bloods. So the case over here is talking about, our Tana is talking about that they already mixed it before they put it on the 4 krones.
That's why it's only 43.
That's why it's only 43. But the my Bryce that says it's 47. They didn't mix it by the krones, so there was twice 4. Only after they put the par and the soy on the 4 krones, so you had an extra 4. So that made it into 47. Only then, after they mixed it together and put the 7 on the mizbeach. But we learned 48. Says Gemara this already. We had the answer before. If you count Shirayim as part of the Avodah Hanat by the Mizbeach HaPnimi. This one that says it's 48 holds like the Manda Amma that says the Kila, after you finished all the Avodah, then it's a kapara. Part of the Avodah, the Kila came after they put the Shirayim into the Yisod of the Mizbeach. So therefore it's part of the Avodah, that's why it's 48. This one follows the Manda Amma that says the Shirayim is not Me'akiv. He doesn't learn it out from that pasuk. When the Gemara goes back and asks on Reb Shimon ben Lakish, you remember he says Al Das Rishena, he wants to ask another question. He wants to give one more bang on that shot. That the mincha becomes pigul because of Machshava only b'shas habitz hakemetz the kmitza b'matan kli ubehiluch by the kmitza and by the kometz, placing the kometz into the kli ubehiluch and bringing the kmitza to the fire. But if he came lahaktara nasan sakemetz, he placed the kometz on the mizbeach ma'ashava v'salavena b'shtika ishanas hakemetz b'shtika v'salavena ma'ashava. Rabbi Meir pigul chayav malay v'kodes. Chameimem ein by kodes hachi yifaga b'chol hamata. There's a din by the mincha again that if he had the machshava by the kmitza of pigul, and then he put it into the kli and he put the levina, right? So and there by the levina it was quiet, or the reverse. By the kmitza he didn't have anything in mind. By the levina he had in mind machshava's pigul. So the Rabbi Meir says it's going to be chayv kares, and the Chum say it's kosher till he had the machshavas pigul throughout all the avodas. But we learned es hakoymes v'shtika es alavinu machshava upalik. We learned the koymetz, which is the first avodah. What kmitza comes first, right? And by the kmitza he had shtika, and by the lavina he had a machshava. So if you had by the kmitza no pigul, and you only had pigul by the levina, how can you say it's possible if it's al das rishona? The das rishona was good. Only by the levina. Upalagan, Rabbi says it's pigul. We'll have to stop it. It's pigul, yeah.